Sabbath. You may have heard that President Trump has declared, once again, Happy Shabbat. I think we just started. And as you may have heard, Donald Trump has issued a proclamation, one that states that all of the citizens of the United States, he recommends and urges them to observe the Sabbath. Wow, how wonderful of him. I don't know what voice I was doing there. But yeah, just want to say that's what we do every Friday, right? Every Friday, welcome in the Sabbath, a day of rest, a day to take a sabbatical, to rejuvenate. And there's a lot of thoughts on this proclamation, and I'm not going to go too deep into it. There are videos out there that can go into the prophecy side of it. I'm going to say a little bit about that, but I'm going to tie it into something that I am a little bit more versed on, which is the um, social, um, economic, and political. When I say political, I mean social justice political angle of this, based on my background. But I'm gonna start with a little bit of the spiritual in terms of what I am hearing, because I am a babe in scripture. I have not read through the whole Bible yet, but I am starting to get a good enough comprehension of it to kind of see the through line in the narrative. So the Bible speaks about the prophecies that will signify or usher in the end of times. And one of those is the Sunday Blue Law, in which, and it's happened in the past, in which those who celebrate, those who observe the Sabbath, are persecuted for doing this, as opposed to observing the Sunday. And the reason, and this is the part I'm not too versed on, that I have a academic but not a comprehensive and intuitive understanding of the change from what the fourth commandment said to the uh, observance of Sunday, but it has something to do with Constantine, um, the Catholic Church, and the merging of the state and the Catholic Church, and uh, calling it observance of the Sunday, the observance of the sun, or something like that, to say how versed I am in it. But that was a change. It was a celebration of the day of the sun or something. Anyway, I shouldn't butcher it. But anyway, there was a switch from the traditional Sabbath, which is what we as a Seventh Day Adventists observe, and it's not a Jewish holiday. It's a Christian, the traditional Christian, not holiday. It's not a Jewish um, Sabbath. It is a Christian, biblical Sabbath, and this idea that if you don't observe the change from um, the Pope Constantine uh, to the first day will lead to persecution and will also be the mark of the beast in terms of economic injustice, um, the mark of the beast in the hand and the head in terms of your thoughts and what you do. And this is supposed to be a sign of the end times. So people are saying, but here we are, the state is now proclaiming that Sabbath, the Saturday, is the day that we should all observe. And it's not forced. So when this happens, it's going to be forced. So this proclamation is not forced. It's a recommendation, urging. But what I'm hearing from uh, the people who are the influencers, the YouTubers, whatever their term is, um, that are Sabbath keepers but not Jewish, who are looking out for these signs of the times. And what they're saying is that what happens when you make a proclamation that you should observe Saturday, Sabbath, which is going to be in a few hours, Friday night to end of sundown Saturday, um, when the majority of the political and social power in this country observes Sunday. So what this has done, it's and what often happens with this administration is there's always an ironic outcome, wherein the actual outcome is the exact opposite of the intended outcome, at least the public-facing intended outcome. So what they're predicting will happen, and it makes sense, just on a human dynamic level, that those folks who observe Sunday are going to say, "What about us?" And it's going to escalate to be not just an recommendation, but to where, because of the religious right, the evangelical right, and the fervor that we see that is now mixing um, church and state, that this would be the steps leading to uh, legal observance of Sunday as the Sabbath. And it's happened in the past. There have been um, times when this has been fought over in the United States. It's happened extensively in Europe. I am now reading, no coincidentally, everything is divine intervention. I am now reading The Great Controversy by Ellen G. White, which speaks of this exact same thing. So when I say it's divine intervention, everything is coming, it seems to be at the right time. So we have to be. Um, so I'm looking at this, and I'm um, keeping my eye out on this, because there's so many things that seem to be coming together in terms of my spiritual journey, and it's not, again, it's not coincidence. So I want to shift gears a little bit to speak about the um, other layers of this, because I posted earlier in the week that the harm that we are seeing, the things that are happening now with this administration, and I don't like to get too political here, but as it pertains, so I made a shift. Let me just start with that. I made a shift where I was, for the last 6 years, on a social justice, economic justice platform, to realizing how that's not where I need to be in terms of my priorities. And it's because of this journey in terms of uh, getting rid of my idols. Over the over the past few years, I've been good at cutting back at some idols. Sports. I used to be passionate. I could not miss a Jets game. I would not miss a Nets game, and these were my idols. The way I see it is, anything that's at the forefront of your mind, the thing that you do most, the thing that you think about the most, that's an idol. And that was the thing um, I was obsessed with. My New York Jets, as bad as they are. Now I got rid of that one, and that was probably the toughest one. But in its place, because I think once you get rid of one addiction, idol, something else will take its place, fill that vacuum. And what I did is I watched more TV. I would watch Sports Center in the morning. I would watch HGTV, like American Pickers or Magnolia, or all these shows in the middle of the day. At the afternoon, I watch Pardon the Interruption and Around the Horn. And then at night I watch my ball games, which was taking up less time. Um, but then I got rid of TV, right? I stopped paying my subscriptions. Um, but in its place, the activism started to take over. I became more active, working more on this economic and social justice, and really it became social media. So activism on social media is, I guess, the best way to put it. So I would be posting, editing videos, and this took up the time that I lost with the sports and the TV. And now I'm on social media, and I think I've documented a little bit my struggle with the social media because that's a more recent one. And what I'm realizing is that I thought I was getting rid of idols, but I was just replacing one idol with another. So in the last couple of weeks, I've realized that, and I think it happened organically because that wasn't my intent, but my obsessions, idols, started shifting to the thing that we should be uplifting to be the Most High, which is spirituality, faith, God, the Most High. And that energy, and I spoke about this last week, that energy that I had with being out on the street corners for activism, I need to match that with my spiritual journey, my spiritual activism. And it was only a week or two ago that I realized that those skills that I use for activism, man, if I put them to use for God, I'll be doing my part. So that's what I've been doing in the last few weeks, and it's been organic. I've been channeling that energy and that passion that I had for social and economic justice. I've been channeling that energy and that passion to spiritual awakening, to ministering, to letting people know that there's something better out there. Um, all the skills that I bring, that I've learned. I mean, the Bible, I'm still reading through it, so that's not my strong point. But where I have the skills is in the physics of it all. I have the skills in the economic justice of it all, the social justice of it all. And in that overlap, that's why I have something that I could add to the soldiers who are out there ministering about the love and the light. And I like to think about it like we've all been put on, even if you are not a believer, like my job is to reach out, my ministry is to reach out to the non-believers who think there's something greater out there, right? There's a grand omnipotent designer out there, right? Somebody put us here, right? Don't you think that being would have given us planetary guidelines for sustainability? Like, okay, exists, but here are some of the guidelines to how you are to sustain. Even if you don't believe in that and you believe in Darwinism, I mean, survival of the fittest, it, it is those who survive, who pass those traits down, who are the ones that their genes are propagated throughout generations. So selfishness, all of the same things they speak about in the Bible, loving your neighbor, um, humility, all of these things are things that if they cause a demise, as we see that might be happening around with some of these the empires that are crumbling, we see that those personality traits uh, lead to the the de- dev, devolving. I was going to say de-evolution, but I don't think that's the word. If those leads to the unsustainability of a civilization or a person, that they will not those skill sets will not be propagated down to the next generations. Even if you believe in Darwinism, but if you believe in something higher, a grand omnipotent designer, then there would be planetary guidelines that are left for us to follow. I believe those planetary guidelines are in the Bible. And I almost feel like I'm going to limit my use of using the word Bible and just say these are the planetary guidelines for sustainability. And you can't say that I'm going to compromise on these, because to compromise on these, to compromise on sustainability. So if selfishness leads to uh, eventually um, the fighting and wars amongst nations, brothers, or cities, or whatever, gangs, um, then that's not something that you should be compromising on. And of course, there's probably going to be a formula of things, that variations of how strictly you need to adhere to some of these guidelines. But those need to be the goal, right? And that's what scripture is to me. So when I speak and I minister and I talk about the things that we need to do, how greed, it goes back to my economic justice, how greed, competitiveness, competition over collaboration, um, not having humility, prideful, not having agape love, which is love for your brother, all of these things. You see what's happening with uh, borders, things that we don't even consider that should be on the table in terms of taking them out of our civilization, or out of our um, blueprint for civilizations. If you don't even consider that, why do we have borders, right? Why do we own land as opposed to being stewards of the land? Uh, these are the planetary guidelines. We were put here as stewards of the planet. And as stewards of the planet, we are to follow certain guidelines that lead to sustainability of the planet, or those who don't follow those guidelines. If there is a grand omnipotent designer, then he won't allow us. And I use the computer analogy, I'm going to use it again here, of if you have a phone that has a virus, a bug, and it crashes the phone, the hardware, right? You upload your software to the cloud and you get a new phone, you're not going to download that software with a bug. You're going to want to find the McAfee um, uh, software that will get rid of that bug before you download it again. And to me, that's what the grand and impotent designer is doing with us. We have this virus called sin. Our hardware is our bodies. The McAfee software is the Bible. That's how we debug our sin. For those who follow it, once we lose these bodies, our souls, which is the software, goes up to the cloud, which is, you know, as we sleep, the power is not plugged in, it's plugged out, we're sleeping in the cloud. When we are all awakened again, the, those that have that software with the virus of sin will not receive the new hardware. And it can be as simple as that. For those of you who believe in the Matrix, you believe in the Matrix, right? Some people believe in the Matrix. It almost all comes back to Scripture, you know. So I just want to say that. So that leads to this other thing, and I go into this. I repeat myself weekly because I think the message needs to be repeated. Some of these things need to be repeated. Now, as far as going back to this Sabbath law um, and idols, I posted this week about going back to this administration as well. That I don't think what's happening now is the last stage or end stage of whatever harm is being done with the wars and the Epstein business that's been, the biggest cover up I think in the history of our planet is the Epstein class. Billionaires who again are not following the planetary guidelines of of selfishness and community and it takes humility it takes pride, a tremendous amount of pride to want to be a billionaire, and it, it lacks humility to be a billionaire. So I think that when you look at the Epstein class, billionaires who have um, are indulging in guidelines, not guidelines, who are going against the planetary guidelines that are made for our survival. The things that I've heard that's happened in these files with, and I don't know which ones of these are true, but from the human sacrifices to the sexual immorality, all of these things are the earmarks of a people that have lost their way and have decided not to follow um, the things that are supposed to keep. Everything in the Bible speaks about everything that we see happening. But at the same time, I don't think that this is it, uh, because that Epstein class is, I believe, also the class of billionaires who are creating the artificial intelligence that will be another true evil. And again, let me step that bit, walk that back. I think with the AI, let's say the AI, I think there are good things in it, and I struggle with this, and bad things in it. And I spoke about this a couple of weeks ago with the wheat and the tears. And the good things is that it's a machine, it's a way for us to become intellectually efficient, um, and to really share knowledge, and uh, and to um, parse knowledge in a way that could not be done before. But it's only a tool, right? It's something, it's not good or evil. But in the hands of somebody who intends to do good, it does good. Just like any tool, in the hands of somebody that intends to do bad, it does bad. So this tool that is a tremendous, very powerful, is now currently being um, designed, created by people who are in this Epstein class. And I'm going to land the plane here soon. And in that Epstein class, there's an overlap with what's happening now with the AI, the harm that's being done, with the resources that are being wasted, the fresh water, billions of gallons of water daily, um, with the job losses, with the weaponization of it. There's an overlap with that and what's happening with the merging of church and state. Because when we look at who the vice president is, the person that got him that position was Peter Thiel, who is one of the more powerful billionaires in the world. He walked J.D. Vance into Trump's office, and he's also, uh, we talk about the Sabbath and the Sunday law. He's also Catholic, and I think that we need to just keep an eye, because a billionaire, Peter Thiel, walked J.D. Vance into Trump's office, and this time when there's a overlap of when there's a merging of church and state, and there's this AI um, technology that's being put in the hand of the Epstein class. What could go wrong, right? So let's keep an eye on that. So I'm going to start to wrap it up. I want to keep these under half hour. Again, it's Sabbath. I'm gonna go in and hopefully bring in the Sabbath with my dad. But before that, I want to talk about Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day for all of you. Um, my mom was a light, and she. I went to visit her resting place today, and I was thinking about that miracle that what God spoke through her to me to strengthen my faith. I call it the Christmas miracle. She died on Christmas, and I mention this almost every time because it's such a powerful. The more I think about it, the more moved I am by it. The fact that in her state of dementia, where she could not put two sentences together, barely two words together, 3 or 4 months before she died, that she said to me, "Christmas," clear as day, and only until 3 months later, 2 days before she was going to die, and I realized why she said that, because it was 2 days before Christmas, and I knew that she was telling me that that's the day she was going to pass. And on of all days of the year, the day of the birth of Christ, the day that we celebrate Christ the most, that's the day that, in a demented state, clearest day, she told me that she would pass away on that day. And sure enough, 2 days later, she passed Christmas morning. And that was God speaking through her to me to let me know, because I have my doubts all the time about, is God real? Is this real? Am I really, why am I doing this? What are the chances? Should I be putting my faith into my life into this work? And then I remember that what she said, Christmas, and this that just not something that happens by accident. And God spoke to her, to me. Here we are, a year and a half later, and every time I think about it, I say God is real, because that was a clear message, Trevor, that she knew when she was passing, and there was something was being sent to me, a message. I don't know if it was passing on the baton, but the message that got that I got was that God is real. And because my mom was the most fervent, passionate Christian that I knew growing up, and I left the church, and she just kept for 30 years telling me, "You got to go back to church every day." And you know, three it was October, 3 months before she died, she she knew I was back, because I was back in the church for a couple of years now, and she knew that she did her work, and she said, "Christmas." As her work was done, she was like, "Okay, Trev, you take it over. Make sure you bring Dad with you. Bring as many people with you as possible. Use this word, this message, to strengthen your faith, so that you can strengthen the faith of others." And so Mother's Day is a special day for me, and it also happens to be every 7 years. Mother's Day and my dad's birthday happen on the same day, and this is that 7th year. The first year it happened was the year I was born. It happened, and then I was born a few months later. So it's gonna be happy birthday, Dad. Happy Mother's Day, Mom. And for all of you mothers out there, you guys, happy Mother's Day. And yeah, so I'm gonna end it there, and I hope that there's gonna be a fight coming up. There is always a fight, but I think the fight is gonna intensify. So we all need to be ready. Read your Bible. I say like what my mom says. Yeah, those are the planetary guidelines for sustainability. Believe me. And miracles will happen to you every week. And I didn't get to talk about the miracles that happened to me this week. They happen every week, and they did happen this week. But I, I'll do it next week if I can, if I remember. Anyway, everyone, thank you for joining me. Happy Sabbath, happy Shabbat, and I'll see you next week. And a happy Mother's Day.